My wife and I have been under house arrest since the 15th of January when we had elections. And yesterday, our house was raided by some police officers together with a number of other unknown individuals in plain clothes. They used ladders to climb over our fence. They cut off our electricity, they cut off our cameras, and they were being assisted by a helicopter that was hovering in the sky of our compound and providing them light as they were doing what they were doing. Amidst that raid, I was able to use my skills and escape my house. But I know they're looking for me. But even if they succeed and get me and do whatever, I want to say this to you, fellow Ugandans. First and foremost, we reject whatever is being declared by Mr. Byabakama, because those so-called results that they're declaring are fake and they don't in any way reflect what happened at the polling stations or what is at the declaration forms. And therefore, those results, the so-called results, are fake. After arresting almost all our agents, after ballot stuffing, and after shutting off the internet, the regime is trying to once again rig the elections. What happened in the polling station is a completely different story, and we demand that the internet be restored and the rightful declaration forms and tally sheets from the districts are uploaded on the internet so that the people of Uganda can see the rightful results in transparency. We also demand that they hold whatever declaration is going on until the internet is restored and until the people of Uganda can follow up on the results in transparency. We are glad that there are protests, and we encourage the people of Uganda to resist any rigging and resist any effort of subduing their voice. We also want to call upon the media, which has deliberately ignored what is happening in the country. There are widespread protests across the country, and these widespread arrests and people are being killed. For example, in Butambala, at the house of Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, 10 people were shot and killed in one house by the police. In Waise, 4 people have been shot dead. In Mukono, 4 people were shot dead. In Machinge, we have information that 3 people were shot dead. And in Kayunga and Luero, we are yet to get the statistics of the people that have been killed and what exactly is happening. We want to firmly call upon the people of Uganda to reject these fake results that are being read at Ruboa by Mr. Byabakama and his Electoral Commission, and we want to call upon the people of Uganda to non-violently protest and reject any effort to subvert their voice and demand that the rightful results are announced.
The speech you have just watched is from Bobi Wine, the main opposition in Uganda right now, who has just escaped house arrest. Brothers and sisters across the continent, what we are witnessing in Uganda is nothing short of a complete breakdown of democracy. This is a nation under siege by its own government. The East African country has descended into absolute chaos following elections that many are calling a theatre of fraud and military intimidation. President Yoweri Museveni, who has ruled Uganda with an iron fist for nearly 4 decades, is currently leading in these elections. But the circumstances surrounding this lead are deeply troubling. Even before a single ballot was cast, Museveni had already deployed the military into the streets of Kampala and other major cities. The internet was completely shut down across the nation, cutting off Uganda from the rest of the world and preventing citizens from documenting what was happening in real time. It wasn't an election. It looked like a country preparing for war against its own people. Meanwhile, Bobi Wine, the people's champion and main opposition candidate, was placed under house arrest. But in a daring move last night, he managed to escape a violent military raid on his home in Magere. On his X account, Bobi Wine shared chilling CCTV footage and wrote, "Last night was very difficult at our home in Magere. The military and police raided us. They switched off power and cut off some of our CCTV cameras. There were helicopters hovering over." His wife and other family members remain trapped under house arrest as we speak. Bobi Wine is now in hiding somewhere in Uganda, constantly on the move, knowing that security forces are hunting him down. Will he be caught again? Will he manage to stay free? Nobody knows. What we do know is that this man is risking everything for the freedom of his people. The situation is dire. Reports are coming in of multiple civilians killed for simply attempting to peacefully protest against what they're calling broad daylight thuggery. The Electoral Commission, led by Justice Baya Bakama, continues to announce results that the opposition completely rejects, citing massive ballot stuffing, military takeover of polling stations, and detention of opposition leaders and polling officials. The question now is, how long will the international community watch in silence? Now, let's hear what the Electoral Commission is saying as they continue counting these contested votes.
The electoral environment has been largely peaceful and conducive for the conduct of elections. Electoral campaigns were mostly calm and peaceful. The mission noted that Uganda has a legal and regulatory framework on political party financing whose objective is to enhance fairness and integrity of the political parties. However, the mission noted that the law does not provide for campaign financing to cater for campaign expenditure so as to ensure a level playing field during electoral process. The mission commends the effort by the Electoral Commission regarding preparation and management of the 2026 general elections and the systematic stakeholders' engagement throughout the electoral process, including briefing international observers on the preparedness and the overall conduct of the elections. The Electoral Commission published a comprehensive roadmap as early as August 2023, covering electoral activities, including demarcation of electoral areas, updates and display of the voters' register, and the nomination of candidates. The mission notes that the National Voters Register had 21,681,491 registered voters, which reflects a laudable 70% increase from 18,103,603 in the 2021 general elections. The mission noted that 53% of the registered voters are female, which demonstrates commendable women participation in the country's electoral process. The mission noted some concerns raised with regard to the high number of candidates denominated by the Electoral Commission after previously being validly nominated, candidates declared unopposed, and appeals arising out of nominations and denominations process lodged before the courts a few days to the election day. There is need to streamline the procedures and timeline for these processes to minimize confusion and enhance credibility and public trust in the electoral process. The mission recognizes the active role played by civil society organizations in civic and voter education and election observation. The mission commends peace initiatives led by the Uganda Human Rights Commission and the Inter-Religious Council of Uganda, which culminated in the signing of a peace pledge towards peaceful, inclusive, and accountable electoral process. The mission noted that the law provides for equal coverage of candidates by state-owned media. Generally, media offered extensive coverage of the electoral process and were also essential in dissemination of voter information to encourage meaningful participation in the elections. The mission noted that although there was no female presidential candidate or disaggregated data on female candidates, youth, and persons with disability. Political participation of women is promoted through district women representatives in Parliament. Inclusivity is further enhanced in Parliament through special interest groups elections, together with youth, workers, persons with disability, and UPDF. The mission noted that on 30th January 2026, the Uganda Communications Commission issued a directive suspending public internet access, which had a direct impact on the compilation and analysis of field reports from our observers. Regarding voting, counting, and tallying, on polling day, the mission observed the following. During opening, all polling stations visited opened late, with an average delay of 3 hours due to late delivery of election materials, malfunction of biometric voter verification kits, and delayed setup of polling stations. These delays caused frustrations for voters at some polling stations, with some deciding to leave. Despite these delays, the mission observed that the environment was generally calm and peaceful, with noticeable presence of party and candidate agents. All the polling stations observed were accessible to persons with disabilities, demonstrating efforts toward inclusivity. Assistance was provided to voters who needed it, including those with visual impairments, in line with the legal framework for election day procedures. All polling stations visited were in open areas, allowing for more transparency of the voting processes. However, some of the polling stations did not have shelter for polling officials, party agents, and voters. The observers noted that authorized stakeholders, such as party and candidate agents, had seamless access to the polling stations and performed their duties without difficulties. The presence of party agents and observers at polling stations demonstrated a vital principle of transparency in the electoral process. The presence of security personnel at all polling stations visited ensured peace and order. The conduct of security was observed to be professional, non-intrusive, and discreet. Identification of registered voters was conducted transparently and confirmed by party and candidate agents who had copies of the voters' registry at each polling station. Voting proceeded uninterrupted in all the polling stations visited throughout the day. The mission observed that most of the polling stations had queues with an average of 50 to 100 voters. An average of 5 polling officials were deployed in all polling stations visited. There was a commendable gender balance, with at least 50% women constituting the election personnel. The polling officials demonstrated professionalism and handled election duties with knowledge and understanding of the procedures, a reflection of adequate training by the Electoral Commission. Most polling stations closed an hour later than the prescribed time, 4 p.m., acting on the directive of Electoral Commission to compensate for the delays at opening. Voters still on the queue were allowed to vote. Counting was conducted transparently in the presence of party and candidate agents, observers, and voters who maintained the 20 meters radius as prescribed by law. There was a considerable number of invalid votes. At the polling stations observed, candidate agents received and signed the declaration of results forms, which were posted outside polling stations. Then we have some recommendations. The East African Observer Mission makes the following recommendations. Political parties and organizations should strengthen their processes and dispute resolution mechanism and procedures to address the high number of independent candidates arising from the primaries. Legal reforms should be introduced to provide for campaign financing with a view of enhancing transparency in campaign financing and ensuring a level playing field during electoral process. The Electoral Commission should endeavor to publish disaggregated data indicating the number of female and youth candidates in each election to inform public policy and advocacy. The Electoral Commission should enhance voter education to minimize the number of invalid votes in future elections. The Electoral Commission should provide shelter for polling officers, party and candidate agents, and voters at polling stations, and make use of school buildings or other public buildings not in use during the election period. There is a need to ensure that public access to information through ICT, such as internet services, are available and accessible to all persons during the electoral process. Measures should be put in place to balance security concerns with the benefits of public access to internet services. The Electoral Commission needs to minimize cases of denomination of candidates by enhancing mechanisms for verification of requirements before nomination. The Electoral Commission should investigate the causes of the manufacture of biometric voter verification kits and seek to ensure that this does not affect use of technology in future electoral processes. Conclusion. The East African Election Observer Mission congratulates the people of the Republic of Uganda for exercising their right to choose their leaders during the 2026 general elections. Considering that the electoral process is still ongoing, the East African Community Election Observer Mission urges all stakeholders to continue to uphold peace and refrain from any action that could undermine the integrity of the process. The mission further urges any actors dissatisfied with the outcomes of the process to address the grievances through peaceful and means established by law. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Eda, from the East African Community. And now we hear from the ICJLR Parliamentary Forum, and after that we will hear from the East Africa Standby Force. Thank you.
Your Excellency, former Republican President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, heads of mission, honorable members of Parliament, ambassadors and diplomats present, distinguished delegates, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. We are extremely honored to present the preliminary statement of the Forum of Parliaments of Member States of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region, which is based on the observations made by our electoral observation mission during the general elections in the Republic of Uganda, held on the 15th January 2026. Our sincere gratitude goes to the people and government of the Republic of Uganda for their warm hospitality accorded to us since our arrival. The deployment of the short-term election observer mission underscores our dedication to uphold the principles of Article 6 of the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region Pact on Security, Stability and Development in the Great Lakes Region, with particular emphasis on the Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. Furthermore, our observation mission is a response to the generosity invitation extended to the forum by the government of the Republic of Uganda. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in person to foster a culture of democratic governance in the Great Lakes region, we deployed 21 observers from the member states of the forum, namely the Republic of Kenya, the United Republic of Tanzania, the Republic of Zambia, and the General Secretariat headed by me, Moses Moyo, as the head of mission. Given that the Republic of Uganda is a member state of the forum, we consider it significantly honored to be among the international observation groups accredited to observe the 2026 general elections. Ladies and gentlemen, let me summarize the electoral observation activities that we carried in run-up to the January 15th general elections, in accordance with our mandate as follows. In order to ascertain the state of preparation and preparedness towards the January 15th general elections, the Forum of Parliaments of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region conducted a pre-election analysis. Upon arrival in Kampala, the observers participated in a comprehensive briefing and orientation on the 9th January 2026 before being deployed in areas of responsibility. In order to increase public awareness about the presence and mandate of the mission, upon arrival, we officially issued arrival statement on the 9th of January 2026.
Brothers and sisters of the African continent, what are your thoughts on this video? Subscribe, like, share, and give us your valuable thoughts on the comment section below. Thank you for watching.